What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, and we've got a very special video with a very special guest. We've got GER from Leeds United, The View, to give us the lowdown on what looks like Spurs' second signing of the transfer window, Archie Gray, with Joe Rodon going in the opposite direction. GER, thanks for joining me today. How are you doing today, first and foremost?
Yeah, not bad, Ben. Not bad. Was hoping for a quiet enough Monday. It appears to not be the case now, but yeah, I'm not bad, mate. Thanks for having me.
So it looks as though, depending on who you believe, 25 million or 30 million for Archie Gray, with Joe Rodon going in the other direction, or 40 million plus Joe Rodon for 10 million. On the face of things, what was your initial reaction to the deal?
I think because it includes Joe Rodon, everyone's a little bit happier. The fans weren't happy over the weekend when Brentford were mentioned, but luckily Archie didn't fancy playing for Brentford and decided not to head off there. I just couldn't watch him in a Brentford shirt. I just couldn't see him playing at the community stadium. A player of his potential caliber. Then when Spurs came into the mix, then it looked a bit more real. We knew that they'd been watching him for a while. Dortmund had watched him. Newcastle, Man City were all having a look. But when they made a move, it was probably more likely. And then the fact that Joe Rodon's involved in the deal as well kind of just eased an awful lot. Some portion of the fan base were a bit more relaxed about the move. Some not so much, because he is a homegrown talent. He is 18 years of age. He's got a massively high ceiling. You would have liked to have seen Leeds try to build around these players, but somebody had to go. Somerville was the one they thought would go. There's no offers on the table for him right now. So unfortunately, just because of the PSR situation, it looks like Archie goes and Joe comes the other way. From what I've seen from a couple of places, it appears to be a £30 million for Archie plus 10 for Joe. Total bid is around 40 million total with putting it together. But great move for Spurs. You're getting a really exciting player.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I watched him in the game last season when you played Chelsea in the Cup, and I thought he was unbelievable that day. I thought he gave Chelsea the real run around. I'm really excited about this prospect, and I didn't think it was going to happen. You know, in the last couple of weeks, you saw the names being linked. Borussia Dortmund, you know, the way they like to, nurture these young talents, and the way they go. You look at Jadon Sancho, you look at Jude Bellingham. Arsenal were in the mix as well. I just didn't think this was a deal that Spurs could get over the line. And then you see Brentford coming in, and I'm just like, surely we can be getting in ahead of Brentford. And then obviously that ultimately was the case. But Leeds have had a lot of talents coming through their academy over the past 10, 20 years. I remember when we signed Aaron Lennon off you for 1 million. I think we took advantage of, Leeds' financial problems at that stage as well. But where do you think Archie Gray ranks in terms of the academy prospects that you have brought through?
Probably one of the best. And it's a very small sample size, and that should be said. Archie's had a year with the Leeds United first team. He was on the fringes the year before. A couple of injuries and his age halted that kind of progress a bit earlier when we were in the Premier Division. But he played out of position for the bulk of last season. He played at right back, and he just like a duck to water and was phenomenal. He ends up in the EFL Team of the Year. He's Leeds United Young Player of the Year. He's the EFL Young Player of the Year. He wins the Scholars Award of the Year for the EFL as well, playing out of position. And then the Championship, it's not the Premier League, but it's a tough league, and to play 50 plus games at 18 years of age and to make the impact that Archie made. Ironically, when he went into midfield, he probably wasn't as good, with the exception of the Chelsea game, which he made an £100 million centre midfield pairing at Chelsea look like absolute amateurs. Yeah. There's a lovely clip if you get a chance to look at it that you should see, and that's Archie picking up the ball from our goalkeeper on the edge of the 18-yard line and leaving both of them on their backsides before he jogged off into the middle of the park. So there's a huge amount of talent there. He's from a dynasty and a lineage at Leeds that really hurts, because he's a Gray. We've had Eddie Gray and Andy Gray, his uncle's granduncle and grandfather. His father, Andrew Gray, his younger brother, Harry Gray, is ripping it up in the under-16s as a striker right now. Keep your hands off him for a couple of years. Yeah, let's have him for a bit longer. And there's a lot of excitement there, but he is an incredibly professional kid. He's got the right attitude. He's not one of these young kids that believes in himself as in, he hasn't got this big ego that goes with him. He's a hard-working kid, does the right things, listens to his coaches. He's a fantastic young player. So yeah, this one, again, because of the name on the back of his shirt and the history that has with the club, it hurts. But the ceiling that he has is massive. I personally thought Dortmund is where he would head. I thought that was the one that kind of made the most sense for a young English player. Spurs, depending on what you guys do with him, and I mean this in the best possible way, don't have a great track record of buying young players in the Championship and not breaking them. So as I said to one of the Spurs pages earlier on, don't break this one, because this is a good one. You know, don't do a Jack Clark, Jed Spence on him.
Yeah. Look, to be honest, I think Spurs are going in a different direction now. Now Ange Postecoglou is through the door. But yeah, it can be likened a bit to, because I was also very excited when we signed Jed Spence a couple of years back, and obviously that's just not gone according to plan. But I feel like the attitude and application when you compare a Jed Spence to an Archie Gray is completely different worlds. Yeah, completely different worlds. And you mentioned before about his position, what his best position is. Obviously, he's a natural centre mid, but played at right back last season. The way I see him fitting in at Spurs next season, with Jed Spence going out the door, with Emerson Royale going out the door, is to be in that rotation option with Pedro Porro at right back, potentially starting in the Europa League games. Do you feel like that is his best position in this Spurs team, where you see the right back kind of inverting into the central areas of the pitch anyway?
He could do a job there, but his best position is as an 8. That is his best position, and you're getting a player who can comfortably play fullback, can comfortably play as a 6, can comfortably play as a box to box, or even as a 10, which he has for a couple of games in the Leeds United _21 side. So he's comfortable in all those positions. His best attributes, if you want to get the best out of him, will be centre mid. But you've also got to be mindful, and I spoke to Michael Scubali, who's the Lincoln City manager now, was the Leeds United _21 manager when I spoke to him. And he said it's nothing unusual for young players breaking in to play out of position for the first couple of years. In fact, a lot of clubs look at that as part of their development to try and expand their reach and what they can do on a park. Archie would comfortably going it right back. Now, the Premier League is a step up in pace. He's a very quick player. Against Chelsea, again, when he did play against them, looked very comfortable, didn't look out of his depth at all. But I similar to what you've said there, given the issues you guys have a fullback position, I mean, Matt Doherty's another one falling away from you in the process as well. But I think Archie would probably be in there. I'm Irish, so I've got an interest in Celtic, and I'm a big fan of Ange Postecoglou. And I think Archie Gray suits Ange Postecoglou's style of football to a T. And I think you'll see a very advanced fullback in Archie Gray if he does play there.
So what are his, to all the Spurs fans watching, what are his key strengths, you know? Because I know he's very good on the ball, very technical. He's got a very high rate of tackles I saw in the Championship last season. Are those his key strengths? Is there anything else Spurs fans should be looking out for?
Ball retention is huge with Archie. His ability to hold onto the ball in tight spaces is very good. He uses his body very, very well. He's very comfortable in possession. Very good getting out of his feet and pushing forward and driving forward. He's very exciting that way as well. Passing's very accurate. He's got a nice long range of passing as well for diagonal balls and crossfield switches. He's very accurate with them as well. Didn't see it as much last season with Leeds, but with the under-21s, when he got in shooting positions, it wasn't an issue to him as well. He's happy to put his foot through the ball. He scored a goal from just inside the halfway line against Manchester United on 21s a couple of years ago when he was 15, I think, at 16 at the time. So not afraid and very confident when he gets into those positions. Didn't get a huge amount of opportunity last year. He did kind of score against Leicester last year, although they took it off him in the end. But when he gets into those positions, when there's pressure on, he's pretty comfortable. And he's not afraid, at least with Leeds, he's not afraid to get in the ear of some of the other players if they're not pulling their weight. Like, he will have a bark at players, even for a kid. He's very confident from that perspective. But a very good all-round footballer, very, very well-rounded player that I think, again, had a good season defensively because Daniel Farke is that kind of minded manager. But I think when Postecoglou gets his hands on him and starts to adapt to his play, I know Postecoglou from his time at Celtic is a big fan of every ball forward and likes to push that. Archie will be a forward playing footballer. He doesn't go back. Rarely goes back unless he has to.
And what maybe do you think are his weaknesses and something that Ange Postecoglou needs to work on in the training pitch with him to improve those skills?
I think it'll be levels. I think it'll be improving to the level and getting used to that level as quick as he can and getting into that team and trying to push himself into the starting lineup for Spurs. He won't want to sit on the bench next season. He's played 50 odd games at 18. He's going to want to play. Yeah. And he's going to want to be in there on the England 21s as well. So for that, he has to play football. Postecoglou needing to get him up to speed on what's expected in the Premier League to understand the different, the nuances and tactics in the Premier League versus the Championship. We'd said this a couple of Leeds channels last year when we were talking. The difference in the Premier League and the Championship is the Championship, you've got 3 or 4 teams around you that are going to be in the mix. Every other team you have to beat. It's a different kind of pressure, but they're playing low blocks more often than not. So you mostly have most of the ball. The Spurs being a top 4 side, he'll likely get similar to that. but a lot more teams in the Premier League will have a go at him. He'll be up against a much higher caliber of winger. So there's world-class players in the Premier League. He won't have faced them in the Championship. His only off game last year was away to Preston. He had Liam Miller, the Canadian player, up against him and gave him an awful tough time of it in the first game. But by the time they'd met them the second time, he dealt with him a lot better. But that would be the areas that he'd need to work on him with, just getting him used to the caliber players he's going to be playing against. And the only way he does that is by playing matches and getting game time. But being in around a squad like Spurs and the caliber player that Spurs have will get him to that level pretty quickly. But I just think it's a change of style would be the number one thing just to get him used to.
Do you feel like he's a player that can really take to the Premier League quickly and there won't be too much of an adaptation? Or do you think maybe we Spurs fans need to be a bit patient with him, bide their time? Because I remember Dele Alli when he first came to Spurs from MK Dons in League One, and everyone was saying, you know what, just be patient with this guy. He's going to need to have a bit of time. Then we saw him in pre-season coming up against Real Madrid, against Luka Modric and Toni Kroos, and he was putting the ball through their legs, nutmegging them, and then we're like, wow, maybe he can just take to the Premier League straight away. And that's exactly what he did do. So do you think he'll go more of that way, or do Spurs fans need to be a bit patient with him, do you think?
I was surprised that he's not coming back to Leeds on loan for a year. I did think that would happen. But again, from reading some of the articles in The Athletic that are going around this morning and some of the Leeds press as well, it seems like Ange Postecoglou wants him as part of the squad, at least for pre-season, to have a good look at him, and then I'm sure he'll make a decision before the start of the season. So don't be surprised if you see him go out on loan before the start of the season if he doesn't do exactly what Dele Alli did in pre-season. But I don't think he'll have a problem. I really don't think he'll have a problem. I think the extra space you tend to get in the Premier League, yes, it's faster, but you do tend to get a little bit more time on the ball. I think it'll suit him down to the ground. He won't be the kind of player that when he gets it will put his foot on the ball and stay stationary. He'll get it out of his feet and he'll bomb forward. He'll push teams back. So yeah, I don't think it'd be an issue for him. Again, it's just down to the level. If he can adapt to it quickly, he'll be part of the squad. If he doesn't, don't be surprised if you see him go out on loan for a season. But he's 18 years of age, and he's just gone 18 years of age as well. So he's got a long time before you need to expect anything, of a top level from him. But don't be surprised if you get it early.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, for me personally, I am expecting quite a lot from him next season, and I don't think he'll be going out on loan next season. I think the plan is to be him part of the first team squad. I think now we've got Archie Gray in, I think our need for a right back to come in has. I don't think there is a need for a right back to come in, and I want to see Archie Gray really fight Pedro Porro for that spot. I think the inverted role that Ange Postecoglou plays is absolutely perfect for him with his ability on the ball, like you speak about. I think he could suit this system down to a T, and I'm so excited. Sorry to rub it in, but I'm just so excited to see him in a Spurs shirt. And look, I think with the deal with Joe Rodon going the other way is good for you guys, because Joe Rodon was probably one of, if not the best centre-back in the Championship last year. And I think Spurs have got a really good deal here. In terms of the initial reaction you spoke about by the Leeds fans, sometimes when a player goes like that, there could be a little bit of hostility towards the player. Is there anything like that towards Archie Gray? Or is there just best wishes?
A handful of people are saying he's dead to them, and off you go. But I think the vast majority of Leeds fans that are a bit more realistic about the situation will look at it and say, there was a PSR issue here. We were always likely to sell. Look at the Premier League, the amount of clubs selling young talent now at inflated prices because it's 100% profit and it ticks a box from PSR, which is sadly, unfortunately, the part of PSR that's broken, which is forcing clubs to sell younger players that you would hope would stay at their clubs. But a lot of people are realistic about this. The big question will come in the next couple of weeks for Leeds around, does Chris Somerville now go or does he stay? Because the Red Bull investment came in a couple of weeks ago, and that was said at the time to be able to stop Leeds from selling a player. We assumed that meant Archie. So Archie's gone now. The question is, does that mean Chris Somerville stays? If Somerville goes as well and Nanto goes, although most people won't be too bothered if Nanto goes just from an attitude perspective, but if Cree goes, that might cause more problems for the ownership from a fan's perspective. But Leeds need to start bringing in players rapidly because there's an awful lot of players have gone out and not very much that's come in just yet. But signing Rodon, for me, is a massive signing. He was my player of the year last year in terms of just what I like in a footballer. The pace that he gives at the back is huge, but his reading of the game, he was vitally important. Even in the playoff final when we didn't win, there were still moments in that game where Leeds could have gone 2 or 3-0 down, and only for Joe Rodon that would have happened. He's been fantastic for Leeds. He's given it absolutely everything. And outside of a suspension, he's played every minute for Leeds. So huge player for Leeds to get back in. Leeds will look forward to a centre-half pairing of him and Pascal Stroke next year, which is very exciting. It's a good, strong defensive pairing with Ethan Ampadu in front. Leeds need to bring more players in around them. They've lost a lot. They need fullbacks. They potentially need a goalkeeper. They'll definitely need at least 2 midfielders, and they need wingers as well. So there's a lot of work still to do. If the Archie money gives us some money in the pocket to go and make the squad more balanced than it was last year and gives us a good crack at getting promoted, people will forgive it. If Leeds go backwards, there'll be uproar.
Well, we got a goalkeeper if you want, Fraser Forster. I don't know if you're interested in him.
Best days are behind him. No more. we'll hang on. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But look, Joe, I want to thank you so much for giving us really good insight into Archie Gray. I want to wish you the best of luck for the coming season as well, because I think a team like Leeds do deserve to be in the Premier League. And I think you do have Premier League players, like some of them anyway. When you look at Somerville, you mentioned Gnonto and his attitude problems, which I wasn't aware of. I think those two are definitely Premier League caliber players. So, as well as Joe Rodon, who I actually was surprised that Joe Rodon did go back to the Championship, because I think after such a good season in the Championship, I felt like with the teams like Ipswich and Southampton coming in for him, I thought he might have set his sights on the Championship. Were you also a bit surprised by that?
When I saw the news first thing this morning that Ipswich had tailored a bid for him, I thought that's gone. But
Yeah.
I'd heard the rumours for the last week that Southampton were interested in speaking. His brother's been a bit tricky on Twitter as well.
I know, we know his brother all too well.
Yeah, and all he said was, it's just a nice picture. And we're like, well, I don't know. Rodon's got mates at Leeds in terms of the Welsh lads that are there, like Ampadu is there as well. Charlie Crew, young player coming through Leeds as well, and another midfielder who will possibly just replace Archie Gray for us, hopefully. And he's Welsh as well. And there's possibilities of Conor Roberts coming back on loan again next year. Come back permanent next year. Another Welsh player in there. So he seemed quite happy at Leeds. So I did think as long as Leeds could get something done before the PSR deadline, and he didn't move before then, possibility Leeds could get him back. But yeah, I'm really happy to have Joe Rodon back. Sad to see Archie go, but I think it does take the edge off it.
All right, brilliant. Once again, thank you so much for coming on. If anyone wants to see where GER is, Leeds United, The View, which will be linked in the title and the description as well. But yeah, like I said, good luck for the season. Hope to see you in the Premier League the following season. And like, subscribe and comment. And as always, come on you Spurs.